Hi, my name is Lauren Valentoni and my report is on the country of Nepal. A quick background on Nepal. Nepal is located in Asia, bordering India to the south and China to the north. Nepal is roughly the size of the state of Arkansas and the population is about 31.5 million. Nepal is known mostly for the Himalayan mountain range and Mount Everest, the tallest mountain in the world. Nepal is also situated on three major thrusts, making it one of the most tectonically active zones on Earth. Here is a brief history of natural disasters in Nepal. There have been three major earthquakes in Nepal, one in 1934, one in 1980, and one in 1988. The earthquake in 1934 was one of the most devastating natural disasters in the history of Nepal. The earthquake registered an 8 on the Richter scale and killed 17,000 people in a matter of minutes near and around the Kathmandu Valley. The 1980 and 1988 earthquakes both registered a 6.8 on the Richter scale, yet the impact was very similar to the 1934 earthquake. Flooding is also very common in Nepal, and one of the most serious floods occurred in 1993, causing severe damage and a death toll of 1,336 people. Emergency management is fairly new in Nepal. The first policy impacting emergency management was the Natural Disaster Relief Act, created in 1982 and revised in 1989 and 1992. The NDRA formalized emergency management response in Nepal, focusing on the areas of mitigation and preparedness. Prior to this act, the Nepalese government only responded after a disaster occurred. Through the NDRA, the Central Disaster Relief Committee was created, which formulates and implements policies and programs for natural disaster relief work. The National Action Plan was the next step in emergency management, and it was created in 1996. The National Action Plan does not address separate hazards, but rather focuses on the 4 phases of emergency management: mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery. Lastly, the National Strategy for Disaster Risk Management in Nepal was created in 2008 with help from the Nepal Red Cross Society. The NSDMN sought to improve the policy and legal environment and prioritize strategic interventions for disaster risk reduction. The NSDRMN also seeks to fulfill international frameworks for emergency management, such as the Hyogo Framework of Action. The implementation pattern of Nepal can be characterized as top-down, with the Central Disaster Relief Committee, which is chaired by the Minister of Home Affairs. The Central Disaster Relief Committee also acts as the central agency. The flowchart demonstrates the implementation pattern in Nepal, starting with the Central Disaster Relief Committee, which breaks down into the Regional Disaster Relief Committee, the District Disaster Relief Committee, which acts as field agencies, and the Local Disaster Relief Committee. In the case of severe emergencies, the Central Disaster Relief Committee can create the Relief and Treatment Subcommittee and the Supply, Shelter, and Rehabilitation Subcommittee to aid with relief efforts. Due to its geographic location, Nepal is prone to many hazards, one of the most common being earthquakes. Nepal lies on 3 major thrusts: the main central thrust, the main boundary thrust, and the main frontal thrust. The National Seismological Center was created in 1978 and has recorded 151,667 earthquakes by 2012. Most governmental focus has been on mitigating and preparing for earthquakes. The National Society for Earthquake Technology Nepal was created in 1993 with a vision of earthquake-safe communities in Nepal by 2020. One effort towards this vision was the creation of the School Earthquake Safety Program in response to lack of school safety and knowledge amongst teachers and students. Another hazard is landfalls, which are caused by rugged topography, unstable geological structures, soft and fragile rocks, common earthquakes, and heavy rainfalls during monsoon season. In 2000, the Department of Water-Induced Disaster Prevention was created. However, the DWIDP didn't begin hazard mapping for landfalls and creating emergency relief materials until 2007. In addition to landfalls, flooding is a major hazard in Nepal. Due to the vast difference in height between the mountains and valleys, the Himalayan region is one of the severest flood zones in the world. Floods are most common during monsoon season, which is from June to August. Though floods are a major hazard in Nepal, the government has done relatively little to mitigate and prepare for floods. Lastly, glacial lake outburst flooding is becoming more common in Nepal. The Hindu Kush Himalayan region contains the world's largest volume of glacier ice and perennial snow outside of the polar regions. With the rise in temperature, glaciers are beginning to melt, creating new glacial lakes and expanding existing ones. Though glaciers and glacial lakes are common, tracking of them did not begin until the 1990s and early 2000s. The United Nations partnered with the Nepalese government to create the community-based Flood and Glacial Lake Outburst Risk Reduction in Nepal, which focuses on risk reduction efforts, including hydrological, structural, and geotechnical engineering interventions. There are many participants in emergency management in Nepal. As stated previously, the Ministry of Home Affairs is the lead governmental agency for disaster management. Other governmental departments include the Ministry of Irrigation, the Department of Mines and Geology, Ministry of Physical Planning and Construction, and the Royal Nepal Army and Nepal Police Force. Non-governmental and international non-governmental organizations include the Nepal Red Cross Society, the International Center for Integrated Mountain Development, the Kathmandu Valley Earthquake Risk Management, and the National Society for Earthquake Technology. These are just a few departments and organizations that impact emergency management. There are many more. These are a few potential obstacles to disaster management in Nepal. The first being the top-down approach to emergency management and the many agencies who play a role in disaster management. This can cause an overlapping of services. Also, there can be a lack in coordination and cooperation amongst the organizations. Second, there is a lack in strict building codes for Nepal. In 2003, the Nepal National Building Code was approved and enforced in all 130 municipalities. However, the NBC is not enforced in towns and villages, and it also allows for the use of international codes. With the use of multiple codes, it becomes difficult to enforce any one code. Lastly, the economic condition and staggering population contributes to devastation. The large number in population and high poverty level contributes to Nepal's vulnerability factor. Also, research has found that urban earthquakes are more devastating in high-density environments, such as the Kathmandu Valley region. These are my references, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation and learned something new about emergency management in Nepal.